we're not a reliable negotiating partner. We lie. You show up, you may be killed during the negotiations. We cheat. We're not honest. And our response is that the Iranians lie and cheat all the time. I've talked to people that were inspectors. I've talked to people that have been involved over there, and they say the opposite is the case. I remember going through this in the Balkans, and people kept insisting the Serbs were dishonest. You couldn't trust anything they say. I found just the opposite. Of the three parties, the Bosniaks, the Croats, and the Serbs were scrupulously honest. If they said they were going to do something, they did it. If they said they wouldn't, they wouldn't. If they were going to show up, they did. This business of constantly demonizing your opponent really makes it very hard to come to some sort of arrangement that terminates the hostilities. And that's effectively what we're doing. We go back to World War II, this World War II nostalgia where nobody actually knows what the hell happened during the Second World War and just how difficult the whole thing was. But we act as though we were the great ones who solved everything, won everything, determined everything. Nothing could be further from the truth. But one of the things tragically that we did is that we so completely demonized our opponents that we made it possible to destroy them completely, to the point where we had to spend 50 years compensating for the destruction of the power they once held. This business of now setting out to destroy Iran because they refuse to accept our terms is equally insane. Only this time around, Iran is in a far better position than we realize. And the Chinese and the Russians and many others are very interested not only in seeing Iran successful and survive, but they want Iran to be a partner in the future with regard to the Strait of Hormuz. We've mentioned this before. The Dardanelles was a failure. The British at least had the presence of mind to come to the Montreux Convention and sign over the rights to determine who goes through or doesn't go through based on very clear, unambiguous conditions to the Turks. There hasn't been a problem in the Straits of with the Convention of Montreux since 1926. It's worked very well, but we insisted we should be the ones to make the determination, and we readily admit that, but for a few items, we're not really that dependent on the Persian Gulf. The rest of the world is. None of this makes any sense, and we're headed for a serious, serious fall. And I think we have to look at the rest of the region. People are not paying attention to what's going on in Turkey. People are not paying attention to Egypt. These countries are gearing up for some action. I don't know exactly when, where, and how, and under what circumstances, but the whole region is turning against us. And we would do well to ignore these so-called Epstein elites that govern the Emirates and places like that in Saudi Arabia. These people are finished. The populations there know they're corrupt and evil and want nothing to do with them. We need to start thinking about our place in the world, not as the world's dictator, but as a participant in what really is a multipolar world, and a world in which there are multiple great powers, and start dealing with people on the basis of mutual respect, not bullying. But that's not going to happen with this president. That's pretty clear. Nobody is thinking about the larger issues. That's why the commentary at the beginning about the global economy and the danger that is approaching right now around the planet is something that doesn't even show up in any of the president's commentary or speeches. The farmers collectively in the United States sent a letter to Trump. I forgot the name of the agricultural organization that represented them, but it was a very interesting letter. It was very sound and very straightforward and said, look, if you keep this up, it's going to destroy us. We won't survive it. It's not just fertilizer. It's a whole range of things that are important to farming. You would think that if you're hearing from farmers collectively in the United States, the people that grow our food, and they were asking you to reconsider, you would do so. But this ultimately is not about them. It's not about anything but Donald Trump. We've got to go back to Roy Cohn and Roy Cohn's systematic brainwashing of Donald Trump as a young man. And Donald Trump has gotten away with lots of things. I mean, the man's declared bankruptcy 6 times in his life. He's turned it into a business model. And what did he do after declaring bankruptcy? He washes his hands and walks away. I mean, I've run into people all over the United States that tell me, I used to work at the casino that Trump had, and I'm one of X number of people that were never paid, that nothing was ever done for us. We were supposed to have this, that, and the next thing. And I said, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. And they say to me, well, you're on TV. Can you help me? What can I tell these people? I can't. And I think Donald Trump is still the marketing genius that he always was. He's a con man. He sold everybody a bill of goods. Now he's in a very difficult position, and he's going to ask the U.S. military to rescue him. That's where we're headed, because I don't think this meeting will occur. And even if it does, it's not going to produce anything, in which case he'll then bomb, because that's what his ego demands. Asking him to step down or step away from a bad decision with terrible strategic implications for us and the rest of the world is not something he's going to even understand. In his mind, anything that he says has to be a victory. Anything he does is a victory. Anything he does works. He's the greatest. Just ask him. He'll tell you ad infinitum. And unfortunately, in our society, we tend to value those people. We listen to people say, well, I'm the greatest. And listen, there's nobody that knows more about this than I do. Yeah, right. In other societies, people are put off by that. When people exercise some humility in the United States, they say, what's wrong with this guy? I think we've now gotten a dose of medicine that, quite frankly, is being overdue for some time. I hope this is the last of it, and I hope that when this is over, he and everybody else in Washington will be swept away. Because the thing to keep in mind is that all of these people in the government are part of this disaster. How many times have people on the Hill stood up and outlined in detail all the critical strategic reasons why this is a bad idea and should not be followed? Very rarely. I mean, you can talk about Rouhana, and you can talk about Thomas Massey. Marjorie Taylor Greene eventually came around to this. There are some others, but remarkably few. So the entire Beltway is this poisonous, stagnant pool of people obsessed with one thing, and that is enriching themselves.